Good afternoon. My name is Lori Smith, and I am the Kennebunkport Town Manager. First, I want to excuse the length of today's message, as I want to take the time to address a number of issues that have arisen over the past week. To start, I want to spend some time today giving you insight into my role as Town Manager. I have often described the role of Town Manager as a plate spinner. I'm sure you've all seen the circus act where the performer sets up plates on top of long, skinny poles and spins them. The plate stays afloat on top of the pole, depending on the gyroscopic effect. In the same way, a top stays upright while spinning. The performer's job is to add more plates to the show while keeping the other plates spinning. They run from plate to plate, keeping each rotating with the right amount of force. Too much force or not enough attention will send the plate crashing to the floor. I, of course, do not spin actual plates, but I do keep selectmen directives, town goals, department functions, public communication, adherence to state and federal laws, and community spirit moving forward. My goal is to juggle each of these priorities with the right amount of force and attention to keep us moving forward. So how has life changed during the pandemic? Some of the job is the same. Some of the plates still need spinning. Others have disappeared, put away until a later date. But some new plates have appeared, and they are much larger. They don't quite spin on my standard poles, and we have had to adapt to figure out how to get them in motion, while continuing the show at the same time. Plates with names like hunger, abuse, neglect, safety. The biggest change is now I am also drinking from a fire hydrant of information. As you might imagine, as a mere human, I am not always the most adept at drinking the volume of water at that rate of speed. My job is then to take the water I am able to consume and disseminate it to my professional peers, my board, my staff, and the general public. I am doing my best to answer your emails, phone calls, messages, but I'll be honest, sometimes the water is too much. My message today is that we are battling an invisible enemy. I need you to understand that this is a battle in a world war. Just because you don't see the physical damage of war at home outside your door doesn't mean that it is not taking place. Just like the historical battles from our past, there are people fighting on the front lines while you are at home. In this pandemic, some of those people have trained for these scenarios, and some are just regular people who never imagined they would have to risk their health so you could buy groceries. I would like to thank the janitors, the store clerks, the public safety responders, the nurses, the doctors, the delivery drivers, and everyone who continues to make this world run while most of us are working remotely or waiting at home for the battle to be over. I wanted to make note of this to you because I have received a lot of feedback over the past couple of weeks. Some people think that we are not doing enough to lock the town down. Others think we are being too stringent in taking away their freedoms. Most recently, the Board of Selectmen gave the authority to the chair and myself to take action on regulating the parking and operations at Goose Rocks Beach. On Saturday, Chair Daggett and myself agreed it was time to close off the parking at Goose Rocks Beach. We also closed parking at Colony Beach and most of the parking at Government Wharf, Cape Porpoise Pier, and the Village Fire Station. I received messages on our Facebook page and through email informing us that we had acted incorrectly. Messages stated that those from away had finally won, making the beach private. People argued that social distancing was taking place and that we had nothing to worry about. I want you to know that I read and absorb every single one of these comments. And I share these thoughts with the Board of Selectmen, and I do my best to respond when I can. I understand your personal perspective, and I can appreciate your own observations. I, too, have been monitoring public spaces in town each and every day. I spent Saturday afternoon walking Goose Rocks Beach and observing people's interactions. I too witnessed people maintaining distances, but I also observed people who were not social distancing, not only at Goose Rocks Beach, but other locations in town as well. This was on a day, while sunny, was cool in temperature. I also observed a number of people throughout town that had clearly come to Kennebunkport for a day trip excursion. Some were from out of state and others from other parts of the state. We also were attracting a number of surfers at both Colony Beach and Goose Rocks Beach, as other locations had been shut down. The chair of the Board of Selectmen and the police chief were also monitoring the situation throughout town. We all weigh these decisions very carefully and have been doing our best to keep open spaces available for our residents, while many other towns near us closed them off much sooner. What I can tell you is that there is no playbook for how to act in these times. So I start with what I do know. I know that 30% of our population is considered to be a vulnerable population. I know that warmer weather is coming and people's desire to be outside will only increase. I know that Maine's Peak Resource Day is projected to be in another week, and the state is making plans to add 2 alternative care sites in the Cross Insurance Centers in Portland and Bangor. I know that Massachusetts Peak Resource Day is projected to be in mid-April, and on that day, they will need over 3 times the number of hospital beds that they normally have available. I know that Massachusetts is a hot spot for the virus and within easy driving distance of Kennebunkport. I know that Kennebunkport has done an excellent job of being publicly known as a destination spot with beautiful vistas and a friendly culture. I also know that what is your strength can be your weakness. And I know no matter what we do, we will be criticized. We made the decision to close the parking at the beach to safeguard the community. My job right now is to protect the people of Kennebunkport within the best of my ability, and I take that job very seriously. Even after we closed the parking areas in town, the chief of police had an interaction on Monday with a couple from Illinois who were here to spend the day at the beach and parked in our no parking area. They were quite upset when we addressed our concerns with their actions. Even though the sun is out and you may not know somebody personally who is sick, be assured there is a battle going on. The enemy is invisible. I see people acting as though they can tell who has the virus. They act as though family members and friends are virus-free. The virus can spread when people are asymptomatic, and we need people to abide by the governor's order and stay at home. This means going out only for essential business. Each time you leave your home or invite someone into your home, you should consider whether the trip or visit is worth a potential exposure. You should assume that you will be exposed. I do, and have spent time creating backup plans for if and when that day happens. People ask me whether there are confirmed cases in town. Is it in Cape Porpoise? Is it at Goose Rocks Beach? The reality is that Maine CDC does not report that information to us. But I do know as of today there are 115 positive cases in our county. We know that they are exponentially growing. 115 is only the number of positive tests. There are other people who are not being tested and who have been quarantined by their medical professional. You should assume this number is much larger. Things will get worse before they get better. You should anticipate seeing numbers rise over the next 1 to 2 weeks. The governor's message today reiterated the importance of staying home. This is a battle, and each of us are responsible for our actions and how that puts ourselves, our loved ones, public safety responders, and the medical profession at risk. We are asking for your cooperation during this time, as only together can we beat this enemy. I have asked Chief Sanford during his time next to speak more specifically about the governor's order and what this means on a daily basis for each of you.
Good afternoon, Kennebunkport. Again, I'm Craig Sanford, Chief of Police and your EMA Director. Before I get into the executive orders, our EMS, fire, and police services are fully functional. We appreciate the donations that you did give us over the last week, and if you have any more hidden away, we would appreciate it because they've been handed out and much appreciated. So on March 31st, Governor Mills issued an executive order that was titled Public Contact and Movement, Restrictions on Public Contact and Movement, Schools, Vehicle Travel, Retail Business, and Operations. And I just wanted to touch on a couple of the very important ones. And the first order is in bold. It says, stay at home. All persons living in the state of Maine are hereby ordered, effective immediately on 12/1 of April 2, 2020, to stay at their homes or places of residence. Now, there are some exceptions. One exception are workers at essential businesses and operations. They are able to travel between their homes and those businesses or organizations. They are able to travel to and from childcare, to and from customers for the purpose of delivering goods or performing services. So, to have your groceries delivered, to have the plumber come, to have the electrician come, to have the trash picked up. Those are all essential services. Some are non-essential businesses and operations that may travel between their homes and those non-essential businesses for the purposes of engaging in minimal operations. So again, if I have a business that's closed, but I need to go and check and make sure that the lights are on and things of that nature, that is permitted. And the important thing is I want to go over what essential activities are. And if you notice above, it's to and from, those two important words, to and from. That is the intent of this order. You can be out, but it's to and from to go right back home. So some of these essential activities: obtaining necessary supplies or services for one's family, household members, pets, livestock, including without limitations, groceries. So I can go to the grocery store. Supplies for the household consumption or use. So if I need to go and get, pet food, if I need to go to get medicine, equipment, that if I need it, if I'm working at home and I need to go get some paper for my printer, you can do that. Can I go and do the laundry if I don't have a washing machine? Yes, you can do that. Products that you need for sanitation, obviously, with the big thing about toilet paper, but you can go to the store and get that. Those are all essential functions that you're able to go and do. Engaging activities essential for the health and safety of oneself, one's family member, household member, pets. So basically what that means is you can go to the drugstore, you can go to get the doctors, you can go to urgent care, you can do those things, but again, remember, you should call ahead if you're going to the hospital or urgent care if you're presenting those certain symptoms that we talk about that deal with COVID. You can go and you can care for family members, friends, pets, livestock. So I can go to my neighbor's house if they're away and they left their pet and they're stuck someplace. I can go and do that. I can go and visit grandma or grandpa and bring them essential stuff, but you've got to still make sure that you're doing that 6-foot social distancing. Traveling to and from an institution, educational institution, for the purpose of receiving meals or instructional materials. So if your school is providing, meals, you can go and get those, but you're supposed to go right back home. It's important you do that. And this is the one that everybody really gets wrapped around. Engaging in outdoor activities such as fishing, walking, hiking, running, or biking, but only in compliance with gathering restrictions that are put out by the governor and the CDC. So, to take a Sunday drive and end up someplace parked, and then you got 15 or 20 other cars, you're starting to congregate, and then people start to associate that with getting out and talking to folks, and that's where we run into these mistakes, okay? The intent is for essential business only. You're supposed to be at home right now, folks. And I know people are going to be tempted with Easter coming this Sunday. You know, that's a great time to get together with family and friends, but you've got to resist it, folks. It's very important that you take this serious. You don't want to infect other family members and make them sick, because there's the potential that people can die. So I wanted to go into the next order, which was out April 3rd, and it talks about traveling and out-of-state folks coming into the state. So, to preserve the public health and safety, to ensure that the public health and the health delivery system are capable of serving all, and to help protect those at the highest risk and vulnerability, any person, resident or non-resident, traveling into Maine must immediately quarantine for 14 days. So that means I have a home here. I am traveling up to Maine to come to that home. First of all, you probably shouldn't. You should stay where you are. But if you choose to, you've got to quarantine for 14 days per this order. Now, folks that are calling in complaining about their neighbors not quarantining, even though they're under quarantine, they still might have to go and do those essential functions, like go to the grocery store, go to the doctors. So if you call us and tell us that somebody's violating this order, we still might not be able to do anything about it, but please call if you're in doubt. Visitors are instructed not to travel to Maine if they are displaying symptoms of COVID-19, and are advised not to travel to Maine if they are traveling from cities or regions identified as hotspots. It's important you understand that, and you should refrain from travel in strict compliance with U.S. CDC travel guidance issued Saturday, March 28th. And it's also important to understand that Kennebunkport has also put out travel guidance warnings, and you can go to the town's website to see that in full. And they're strongly urging that you not come to Kennebunkport if you don't need to. It's very important. And effective April 5, 2020 at noontime, all lodging operations and accommodations shall close except for the extent as of providing lodging for the purposes stated below. So there are very few. So hotels and motels, campgrounds, and things of that nature, Airbnbs, all of those should be closed except for somebody, the indigent, domestic violence case, somebody that might be a healthcare worker that's traveling from out of state that is participating in life-saving measures here in the state of Maine. And also for any first responders, or public safety and critical infrastructure. So if a power crew came here to help out, they can lodge in a motel or hotel. All online reservations are supposed to be stopped, and you can keep those folks that are there now to the full extent of their stay. But other than that, you can't do it. If you have questions, go to the Maine governor's website and you can see these executive orders in full. And again, if you have questions, please call me and I'll do the best I can. And now Allison Kenaway from the Health Department is going to go ahead and give you an update.
Good afternoon. I'm Allison Kenaway from Kennebunkport Public Health Office. I'm here to talk to you about a few things. Refreshers are good, right? First, I want to thank everyone for all the local community donations of the PPE that we did last week. We have, as Chief Sanford said, distributed them to our first responders here, the fire, police, and chems departments. And if there's any more out there you'd like to donate, we would be happy to take them. And thanks again. I just want to review a few things. What is social distancing? Social distancing, or physical distancing, is a set of non-pharmaceutical interventions or measures taken to prevent the spread of a contagious disease by maintaining a physical distance between people and reducing the number of times people come in close contact with each other. We must continue to take the guidance of the U.S. CDC, the Maine State CDC, and our government seriously and continue to social distance. Town closures of businesses, meetings, schools, activities, and reduced parking areas across town are to discourage people from gathering, therefore encouraging social distancing. At least that was the plan. Many people have continued to gather, park, and be in close proximity, and the town had to take more measures to stop this. We understand people are disappointed with the closures and reduction to access, but this is serious and unfortunately necessary to encourage social distancing and reduction of the spread of the disease. The goal of all this social distancing is to flatten the curve and lessen the burden on the healthcare system and prevention of contracting the virus. So please continue to social distance, practice good hand hygiene, washing your hands for 20 seconds frequently with soap and water, and clean often frequently used touch surfaces in your home, office, your car, your cell phones, computers, etc. And practice good cough and sneeze etiquette by covering your cough and sneeze with tissues or into your elbow, followed by washing your hands yet again. Next, I want to talk about masks. First, the CDC said do not wear masks in public. Now it's been suggested that you may want to wear a mask out in public. It's hard to keep up as things change so quickly, and I've had an influx of people calling my office looking for me to hand out masks. The town is not in the position for providing masks to the general public at this time. Any PPE we have is geared towards the first responders and the nursing staff in the public health office. Medical masks are a hot commodity and are very hard to get and are on back order everywhere. Even hospital staff are having trouble getting supplies. The medical staff and first responders are the front lines. They need the medical masks. People who are at home quarantining may need to do a few errands to the grocery store and pick up prescriptions, etc., are now suggested to wear masks when out in public. But they can be cloth. It can be a bandana tied over your mouth and your nose. It can be a homemade mask that are being produced by people in the community. You can look online for patterns on how to make them if you sew. Why, you may ask, are masks now suggested? The CDC is suggesting that people wear masks not for your own protection, but for you to protect others. This works by decreasing your droplet spread from breathing, talking, coughing while you are out. It gets trapped in the cloth mask. It's just another layer of community protection. As you remember, some people may have COVID-19 but not have symptoms. And if you are wearing a mask in public, you decrease the spread by wearing the mask. It acts as another barrier, like a cough barrier. It must be also in conjunction with social distancing. You still need to keep 6 feet apart while wearing the mask. Next, I want to talk about gloves. Many people are feeling the need to wear gloves for protection. Washing your hands frequently, whether wearing gloves or not, is the only way to prevent the spread of disease. If you're going to wear gloves, you need to wash your hands frequently still. Many people feel that having gloves on is safe, but if you touch multiple things without washing or changing the gloves in between touching things, it's cross-contamination. Just plain washing your hands frequently, along with not touching your face, eyes, or nose or mouth, is the best method. Use hand sanitizer if soap is not available. And please, if you wear gloves in the grocery store, don't throw them on the ground outside before you get into your car, because they are littered all over the parking lots in piles and other people are having to pick them up. They just go in the trash. And the next thing I'm going to talk about is food. Just to update everyone on the food pantry. Food boxes still remain available to families in need by calling the General Assistance Office at 967-4401 for here in Kennebunkport. Every Friday morning, beginning at 9 o'clock, there's the weekly food pantry that's now located at Vinegar Hill Music Theater. You do not need to call in advance for this. Just show up for 9 o'clock. It's curbside pickup, and volunteers from community outreach are helping to load things into your car. And it's open until they run out of food. Also, just a reminder to any senior citizen or medically fragile person in the community who needs help with shopping or getting food or medications, I have volunteers ready to help. So please call the Public Health Office 967-4401 to discuss your needs. We are here to help. I would also like to mention that there are options for food shopping if you do not want to go out into the store. There's Hannaford's To Go, Walmart free order pickup, and Target curbside pickup. Bradbury Market also has delivery service to town residents only. Please see the specific websites for these options. Also, on the Town of Kennebunkport's website, we've updated the front page where it says COVID-19. If you click on that, there's a whole bunch of links of resources that we've been updating in the past few days. So please check it out. Another thing I wanted to touch on is mental health. Mental health refers to our cognitive, behavioral, and emotional well-being. It's all about how we think, feel, and behave. Mental health can affect our daily life, relationships, and even physical health. Emotional and mental health is important because it's a vital part of your life and impacts your thoughts, behaviors, and emotions. Being healthy emotionally can promote productivity and effectiveness in activities like work, school, or caregiving. Being quarantined, practicing social distancing, isolating oneself from friends, coworkers, schoolmates, and adding a lot of stress and worry and a lot of change wears on us all of our mental health. It's very important to maintain good mental health. Please reach out to people. Call your neighbor, call your friends, call your parents or your children. You call with a phone call, use electronic devices options. Go outside and in your yard and exercise, take a short walk, stroll close to your home. Have friends for a virtual game night. Get outside and soak up some sun. Eat healthy, get plenty of sleep. Be kind to one another. Do unto others as you would have do unto you. Treat other people with the concern and kindness you would like them to show towards you. Again, I will mention that 211 and the main crisis hotline at 1-888-568-1112 are still available to people to call 24/7, 7 days a week. It's free and confidential. All this information has also been updated on our website. And lastly, volunteering. We've had many people in the community that want to help in any way that they can. I've had lots of phone calls for volunteering. I mentioned in the past announcements that we had established a volunteer coordinator that I share with him the contact information of people who want to be a volunteer. So when I get a request for something like shopping or picking up medication or prescriptions, I reach out to my coordinator and he reaches out to the list of volunteers to find someone to do it. There's also other ways people can help volunteer if you don't want to be out in the community. Donations is one. Donations to a trusted local nonprofit like Community Outreach Services for the food pantry that supports our 3 towns in the community. Monetary donations to the United Way or Good Shepherd Food Bank for food insecurity and other essentials for residents of Maine. Donate blood. The American Red Cross is still continuing to host blood drives. There's always a need for blood in the state of Maine. We will be hosting our next blood drive here in town on May 29th, hopefully, from 10 to 3 at the Village Fire Department. Emergency or disaster relief, there's a link called mainready.org, and it's where you would go and register if you fill out an application, and you would be contacted if your services are needed. Currently, they are looking for medical providers of all types and PPE donations. Typically, these volunteers, once registered, are asked to help set up alternative care sites. That seems to be what they're doing right now. 211 is also a great link to volunteering, and they have a list for the entire state of what's needed, so you could contact them. Another way to help the community is something called Pay It Forward Maine. This was started by the Portland Chamber of Commerce, and they partnered with several other organizations in the state to promote a campaign for local businesses in our communities. Pay It Forward Maine encourages individuals, businesses, and organizations to support the local businesses during this time of closed storefronts and social distancing. This is your local sandwich shop, coffee shop, hotel, hair salon. You can help them by purchasing gift cards or gift certificates. You can keep them for yourself or you can gift them to somebody else. Utilize the curbside takeout to some of our local restaurants. And one other thing is supporting Maine farmers. The Maine Cooperative Extension has a virtual map online that has a list of all the local farm products and seafood at pickup locations that you can purchase. So all this is on our website now, and you can just go onto the COVID-19 and follow those links. Remember, this is a situation that's constantly evolving, changing, and adapting. Things will change. We will reevaluate again. We will follow the CDC and the government recommendations. So stay healthy and stay home. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Sanford and Allison. Besides volunteering, another way in which citizens can help the United States, the state of Maine, and the town of Kennebunkport is to fill out your census questionnaire. Even though there is a pandemic, the census is still happening. Census data is used for the next 10 years to determine election districts, how much your funding your community receives, and how we plan for the future. Maine is currently lagging behind other states in census response. As of April 5, the return rate for the U.S. was 45.1%, while Maine is hovering at 36.2%. This is distressing, but our local results are even worse. Currently, Kennebunkport is only reporting at 21.9%. While our neighbor Kennebunk is at 43% and Arundel is at 41%. Really, Kennebunkport, are you going to let them do better than us? You should have received your mailings from the census, but you can find all the information you need at 2020census.gov. That's 2020census.gov. If you need assistance by phone, you can dial 844-330-2020. That's 844-330-2020. Lastly, people ask me, how long will this last and what's ahead? The simple answer is I don't know. Current modeling shows Maine peak resource day is in mid-April. However, the top of the bell curve could run longer. Based on the actions by the governor and many cities and towns, it appears that we might possibly sustain our need for hospital beds and equipment throughout our peak. The governor has activated the Maine National Guard and are setting up 2 additional care sites. Please remember that modeling is only an educated guess at future events, and it depends on the actions of all individuals and the health of our medical personnel. Remember that a bell curve has a slope up and a slope down. If social distancing was in place prior to the peak, it will be in place after the peak. Maine is not an island, and getting back to normal will depend on how the United States as a whole is recovering. The town is still wrangling with public projects and public meetings. I have frozen most of the town's spending in order to allow the town to stay financially solvent for as long as possible. This means that most projects have been postponed for the time being. We have had a few selectmen meetings via Zoom and will continue to meet virtually. We are examining whether we might attempt the same for the planning board. These meetings take a lot of effort on the part of town staff to prepare, allow for public input and process, train board members, and meet the requirements of the law while safeguarding the public from Zoom bombing. We have also put our budget process on hold for the time being. So many things have changed over the past month that the proposed budget no longer seems as relevant as it once did. Understanding more about the length of the pandemic, financial implications for our community, and potential future needs will serve us in amending the proposed budget. We are also awaiting word from the state about how elections might be modified in the future to enforce social distancing and protect the public. Today, the governor stated it was unlikely we would have a June 9 primary and are looking at July 14th as a possible new date. As Allison mentioned, our staff has created a COVID-19 webpage that can be accessed from the front page of the town's website. It's a red banner, it sticks right out. We are doing our best to keep the website up to date with all the information we are getting about business loans, unemployment, food resources, medical and hygiene advice, etc. Please check the page often as information is constantly changing. Lastly, I would like to take a moment and publicly thank the town staff and our Board of Selectmen. Just like each of you, they are concerned about the virus and its impact on their lives. Life has not stopped for them because of the virus. They are responding to public's needs and providing services as best they can in this new world. They are worried about family and friends and potential exposure, but they are committed to public service. I appreciate each and every one of them, their creativity and flexibility in adapting to changes from all directions. Be well and be safe.
We're gonna start, we're gonna have like 6 o'clock show or something.